TIL of Freddish, Mr. Rogers' carefully crafted set of rules for talking to children, designed to keep kids from taking things too literally or becoming unnecessarily scared. As a parent of a toddler, the amount of thought in Freddish is incredibly difficult. But no time to start learning like the present. I work in early childhood education and we learn to talk similarly. It is very important to put things in a positive way vs. a negative way. For example, we keep our feet on the floor instead of don't climb on the table. It takes lots of patience and practice, but in a room full of kids pushing boundaries you almost chant the positivisms. If you didn't use the positive language then it would be all no, stop and what is wrong with you. It's a slippery slope to having a negative classroom, so I feel it is worth the effort. I was a child of the 80s. I was scared as hell of the Incredible Hulk played by Lou Ferrigno. Every time he started to rip out of his shorts I'd scream and cry and run to the other room. Mr. Rogers had a special episode of his show where he went backstage to the Hulk show and showed Lou and all the makeup and special effects it took to get him to be the Hulk. That was really a special thing he did for me and other little kids, and I still think about that as an adult. As a teacher of very young children, I followed Mr. Rogers' advice to speak very slowly. I can't remember the details now, but basically he said that young children had a pace they needed to understand the message and it was much slower than a normal speaking conversation. If you listen to him speak with adults, he still used that slower speed. But holy goodness, I talk fast when I'm off work, haha. We're fortunate to have someone like Mr. Rogers to set as an example of how important it is to properly care, educate, and communicate with children. My kindergarten teacher kind of fucked me up for a bit. Whenever we'd have downtime, she's always say we could talk to our neighbors. As a kid who didn't know any better, I just assumed she meant, you know, our actual neighbors. So I'd just stay quiet, secretly resenting that I didn't live next to any of the other kids, who apparently just lived on the same fucking block cause they got to talk. This labeled me as a quiet and shy kid when really I was just a good kid who did as he was told. It took years to break that persona. I don't remember her name, but boy could she have saved me a lot of adolescent awkwardness by following this. I never watched Mr. Rogers growing up, but he was referenced a lot as I grew older. I never knew how amazing this guy was until a couple months ago. I started watching the show and I loved it. He was genuinely a great person, who wanted to do good for kids. And in doing so, made these kids better adults. It's sad the way everything turned out for him. Rogers was extraordinarily good at imagining where children's minds might go. For instance, in a scene in which an eye doctor uses an ophthalmoscope to peer into his eyes, he made a point of having the doctor clarify that he wasn't able to see Rogers's thoughts. r/Churko Froggers. Some people stole his car once. They returned it after seeing it was his car on the news. Kinda like, remember the time we robbed that gas station? Yeah, but dude, we have Mr. Rogers' car, he has to get to the show every day. https://www. Snopes.com/factcheck/remorseful-car-thief/. That guy was cool. I work at a jail full of adults who stopped developing emotionally long ago. I'm going to give this a try. Every time I read something about Mr. Rogers, it makes me want to cry. I think that's the broken inner child in me just looking for someone to care for me like Mr. Rogers did for everybody in his life, especially preschoolers. That final quote just reduced me to sniffles. This is overwhelming to think about doing in real time with a child. Reminds me of when the scrap metal merchants came around, and in front of my 4-year-old daughter I said, "It's the rag and bone man," because that's the slang, old-fashioned name for them. My daughter got scared because she thought I meant an actual man made out of rags and bones. I actually remember disliking the show whenever my parents made me watch it for that reason exactly. I always hated it when adults talked down to me, and he was like the epitome of it. The thing with the eye doctor is a perfect example. There'd always be some sort of bizarro obvious statement like here I am in an elevator. Elevators don't eat people. Maybe I was too old when I watched it, I don't know. We didn't deserve Mr. Rogers. I don't normally say this and mean it, but the world is a much darker place without him in it. I always referred to it as Freddish. I wonder how many daily stand-up meetings with my team it would take before me Rogers snapped. Like, okay kids, be sure to someone's dog's barking, have a grown-up Jim's not on mute and making coffee, let you know where massive echo where dog's barking, it is safe to Jen is talking to someone who walked into her office and didn't mute. You know what, just play in traffic, who gives a shit. Mr. Rogers has left the chat. Motherfucking goddamn, this man was a saint. Fascinating read. Thank you. Honestly, the puppets scared me when I was a kid. And now all the crap there is on YouTube that kids end up watching these days. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, I still watch Mr. Rogers sometimes and be a child grinning face with big eyes. I just watched A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood today. It was a lovely film with moments of laughter and tears. This is how a lot of people talk in New Zealand. What a thoughtful, compassionate human being. Good guide for media personalities targeting kids, or just aware that kids may be watching them. Let other people teach them fear. Lady Elaine Fairchild always scared me as a kid. The Lady Elaine puppet was pure nightmare juice. Good process. Read the article. This wasn't Mr. Rogers' set of rules. It was a parody written by his writers to make fun of the process they went through with him. It's still enlightening, and helps you think about the thought and principles Mr. Rogers embodied. But he didn't have a list that he followed, created, or imposed on others. I still can't get over Reddit's obsession with this guy. Never heard of him before I went on Reddit, and he seems no better than the people on Playschool or Sudi or Sesame St or whatever. I guess he never left America. A true man of God. I knew someone who had never seen Mr. Rogers before, and when he saw it on TV for the first time, his first reaction was it was really nice of them to give a retarded man his own TV show. God, this man was literally the best human on earth. I have an 8-week-old baby and I'm practicing this. I know how anxious I used to get when I was smaller and I'd take this so literally. My mom jokes to the baby that he's gonna make us homeless with his crying cause we live in a condo, and I'm like, don't say that. You're gonna give him a complex. These were created by the crew to be funny. Just poked fun of how much consideration he put into his interactions with children. I ordered one and they were crafted brilliantly. I love your username. I also think you're talking about. On Sirius XM Kids Place Live, there are hosts who take calls from real kids on air. Absolutely, Mindy is the morning show host and she has this language. If you care deeply, you want to communicate effectively. She has an authentic response and respect towards them while still making great radio. It's impressive high energy work. Hey kids, I have some pieces of candy in my van, figuratively speaking. What did we as a species do to deserve such an amazing man? Or a bullet? She'd be panicking. Ugh, your mind. I love literally everything else. You are literally the other side. Till 10K Ma doesn't. The more I learn about him, the more I realize he was even more of an amazing human than we ever knew. Wonder if it would work on Trump supporters. I don't like that some blogger coined a term and is trying to make it seem like Freddish is the name for it. How about Fred Rogers was great and had a unique way to talk to kids? Edit, whoopsie daisy.